What's up? This is Seth Mosley, and you're on the Made It in Music podcast. And today we've got a good one. We've got my friend Dave Pettigrew, who is an absolutely innovative, independent artist. But there's so many things I could say in his introduction. I'll get to some of that in a bit. But just know that it is going to be worth your time on so many levels, especially if you're an independent musician trying to navigate the craziness of the 2020 music industry. But before we jump into that, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to those of you listeners who are on our email list. We've started using it in some new ways where every month we're showcasing new releases. We're showcasing a few of the biggest news stories in the music industry. And I'm also sharing some of the lessons that we're learning. And that's all exclusive to those who are on the email list. No one else gets access to this. It's only for those of you who are on our email list. So to join, just go to our website, fullcirclemusic.com, and you can sign up right on the homepage. Again, that's fullcirclemusic.com. All right. So we've got Dave Pettigrew, like I said, with us. He is a music supervisor. He's an independent artist. He's a concert promoter, an all-around brilliant guy. Dave, thanks for being with us on the show today.
My pleasure. Happy to be here.
So start us off, and let's just go all the way back to the beginning. What first inspired you to get into music and specifically, worship music? Because that's a lot of what you're doing now.
Yeah, interesting. I first moved to New York City right after I graduated from Berklee College of Music in Boston to join a band and become a rock star, and that just all fell apart. So then I needed to find a way to actually make a living as a musician. So I started playing blues bars, was doing about 5 or 6 gigs a week for $20 a night, and then jumped over to doing weddings. And ended up, we built the wedding business up over 8 or 10 years, did 120 weddings a year, booking the band from anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 a night. It was just crazy. And then I got tired of singing YMCA and Disco Inferno and wanted to release a record and started playing church basements and losing money every single night. So it's been an interesting walk. And then all along that, I've had a full-time job as I built that entire career in the music supervision and production business with EMI Music Publishing, which is now owned by Sony, and Warner Chappell Music Publishing, and then Warner Records as well. At the end of my time there.
So we have a mutual friend who's been on our podcast before, Chad Segura, was actually how we met. Did you guys meet at EMI?
Yeah, Chad's a good buddy. We met during my years at EMI Publishing. He was working with another good friend of ours, Rick Kua, and they came up and had a meeting in New York City in our office, and we hung out and hit it off, and we've been friends ever since.
That's awesome. Well, you just went through a lot really quickly there. So I would love to hear, just to go through that part of your journey a little bit. How does one, first of all, go into, because you're an artist, but how were you balancing between doing your own thing, working at labels, or did you kind of treat it like, well, this season I'm going to focus on working for other artists, working for labels, promoting their music?
No, It was 100% like 40 to 50 hours a week doing the label full-time job, and then, another 20 to 30 hours a week doing independent artist stuff. And I was my own writer, producer, manager, booking agent. I was finding the leads, putting it all together, and just kind of building the business on my own.
Well, that's so basically you weren't sleeping for a while.
No, I wasn't. I was grabbing a couple hours a night, and that was kind of it. And at that time I had two newborn kids. I had my son and daughter were, a year and 2 years old. It was crazy. So a lot of fun.
And you may have you went over it so quickly, but I don't want to skip over the fact that you've also been a very successful concert promoter as well.
Yeah, so over the last couple of years, I built this thing called the Northeast Christian Concert Coalition, and just wanted to start bringing Christian artists up to the Northeast. And so we've done runs with Mark Schultz and Unspoken and Jackie Velasquez and Levin the Outcome, and we just this area in particular is just desperate for Christian music. So I needed to find a way to bring those artists up here. And for me as an artist too, it's helpful because I basically put myself on the tour when I promote it. So it all works out.
Well, that's that. Hey, you're finding ways to add value to other people, and at the same time, you're obviously able to get the word out about what you're doing. So I think it's really smart. So nowadays, we're obviously in a crazy time. At the time of recording this, we're in, still in the COVID lockdown. Who knows? By the time this comes out, I'm assuming not a lot will have changed by then. You're doing some really interesting things to innovate as an independent artist. Can you just share a little bit of what that is, what that looks like? I just think it's brilliant what you're doing.
Yeah. So we, I went full time with this about 7 months ago at their time of recording here, and had the first couple of months were great. Like we were doing 15, 18 shows a month. I was continuing my live streams. We had a whole bunch of stuff cooking. And then this whole thing happened, and we had to were forced to pivot to 100% live streaming and building a membership site out of that, and just working through all of these new things that we found. So I found myself at the beginning of March with like 30 to 40 shows canceled over the next couple of months, which was, I think a lot of musicians can relate to that. And so I just dove headfirst into live streaming. I had built a live stream audience on Facebook over the past couple of years. We were doing every Monday night, 8 p.m. at daveonfacebook.com, and just doing hour, 2 hours, and built a community there. But now with all this going on, we're doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sundays sometimes. So 3 or 4 live streams a week. And we're finding that the audience is building. The merch store online is doing great. We're getting donations, and the membership site has definitely ramped up. And we jumped off Patreon about 6 or 8 months ago to just build my own site through my WordPress website. So it's been interesting to kind of get people off of the Patreon platform into my new platform so they could get a better, in my opinion, a better experience.
So, and is that all through your Facebook group?
Yeah, it's all come off the Facebook group, which has been kind of wild. We've basically built a community on Facebook that's almost like a church. And we have between, 50, 75, 100 people every night that come on board, hang out. And now all of those people, we've built a community. So all of those people are talking to each other offline. They're getting coffee with each other. They're calling each other, encouraging each other, praying for each other, worshiping together. So it's really turned into this really close-knit community of folks, all built through a Facebook live stream.
That's amazing. And you said you've been doing the live streams for about 2 years now?
Yeah, we started the Monday night thing probably 3 years ago. And, we started with 1 or 2 people on the live stream. It was super depressing. And then I just stuck with it and upped my gear, upped my game, made it better, made it sound better, made it look better. And slowly people just started ticking on and telling their friends about it and saying, hey, you should come and check this out, and you should check this out. And through some pretty aggressive email marketing and Facebook ads and all that kind of stuff, we built the audience that we have today.
That's awesome. And when people go online and they see things like this that people are doing, I think often they think that they're built overnight. But can you tell us just the importance of maybe consistency and just showing up? Like when you do it, I'm guessing you're not really ever skipping a week. You've kind of just been doing it consistently.
No, so it certainly has been consistent. Like there are some weeks where I'm on the road and I'll find a rehearsal room or a space or something and still have my live stream because I'm not going to stop doing it. So yeah, the consistency is huge. The recurring content is just massive. People find my live streams and go back, months, years sometimes, and just rewatch them. And because the the watch thing just keeps ticking up and up and up. And I'm like, what is going on? And people are actually sitting down and watching these 2-hour long live streams or putting them on in the background for music and all that kind of stuff. So for me, recurring content has been a game changer, and it's really just built up my ministry and my business. It's been awesome.
Well, I love it. I think you're on the cutting edge. A lot of artists are looking for ways to create income when we're living in an era where the music itself isn't always a viable way to do that. It can be a good marketing tool for the artist as the brand, but the music itself, you're not selling an album online anymore. It's just streaming, and then, yeah, it's a pennies game over a long period of time. If you get on the right Spotify playlists and get your stuff building up, it can turn into something. But there's all these other ways that you can be adding value and creating community and providing other things and being able to monetize that. So it sounds like that's exactly what you've been doing, and it's turned into like basically what's a membership opportunity now, right?
Yeah, totally. And we've found that, I mean, the Spotify and the digital platforms, like, it's wonderful to have your music on some of those playlists, but at the end of the day, they're like vanity metrics, right? Like, it's nice to have 50,000 monthly listeners, but at the end of the day, like, you're making 25 or 30 bucks. So I'd rather go out, sell a couple of CDs or a t-shirt in a night on a live stream and make that exact amount of money. And that's what we're doing. Like, I for a minute, I was all focused on, hey, how can we get on Spotify and all that kind of stuff? And it's great. And we still launch music there. But I've found that it's so much more productive to run a Facebook ad, get a new fan, have them come on board, buy a CD, and then become a fan for life, instead of losing all of their info on Spotify, which we just can't track at all.
Well, and it's so counterintuitive for how most musicians think. I mean, we've talked on other podcast episodes about how it's really important nowadays that the artist, to be successful, when an artist approaches a label or wants to release their stuff on a national scale, they've got to realize nowadays that they're not only just responsible for bringing the music, they're responsible for bringing the music and the audience.
Totally.
Is that something that you've always just kind of innately understood, or how did you learn this side of things? What kind of sets you off down that path of being able to create that?
Yeah, I guess it's just been persistence on my side and just trying to find a way to learn it and sinking the hours in to actually learn it. I learned early on, like, I had a record that came out 15 years ago now. Oh my goodness. And I tried a radio thing with that and nothing happened. And I remember spending $2,000 or $3,000 on just independent radio promotion, and it just collapsed. And I was like, man, that was $3,000 I could have used on something else. And then even this last record, 2 years ago, I spent $6,000 on radio promotion. At the end of the day, I was like, you know what, man, that's the last time I'm ever going to do radio promotion, unless I am ready to go with everything else that they need for it, like the touring and national touring and all that stuff. And I just decided to just sink the money and the effort and the time and all of it into just doing my own thing and building. Let's get a core base of 500 to 1,000 fans that love what I'm doing, and will tune in every week on the live stream and just make it happen. And they are, I mean, they've dubbed themselves my Pettigrewies. It's ridiculous, but they love it. To the point where I use a manufacturer called Printful. They're kind of a print-on-demand T-shirt company. And I made a Pettigrew T-shirt, and now that's available in the store, and it's selling like hotcakes. So
that's amazing. Well, I would love to get a little bit tactical for a second. I'm on your website, and this is what I just thought was so just different. It's a guy that understands how to build a community and build a membership site within the music industry. You've got this thing on here where you can join Dave's band. Tell me what that is.
So Join Dave's Band is basically joindavesband.com. And it's my membership site. And it started over on Patreon. And it did pretty well over there. But I found that platform is awesome for somebody that's just starting. Like, you can really, I just found it a little limiting. So now we've got this new WordPress build platform through MemberMouse, and we have $2 up until $1,000 a month that people can join at, and they get different levels of membership and different stuff for each level. And I'm building new products all the time to incentivize people to upgrade their membership from 2 to 5 to 10. Like, we just launched a new product last week. We're doing these things called Worship Underground. It's basically a worship live stream on Zoom. So if you are a member at the $30 a month or higher level, then you get access to that. So we had a couple of people jump from 15 to 30 because they wanted to get access, So and then there's $50, and we have new stuff that happens there, and monthly T-shirts that come out. I just started that thing this year, and we're just always trying to innovate within that platform, so people have value when they come in and they're like, "Hey, I want to support this guy," but the other stuff that's coming through, very cool stuff to get as well.
Yeah, I think so many artists struggle to come up with these ideas of like, if I was going to start a membership site, what would people be paying for every month? And really what a lot of people want is, once they become a fan of somebody, they want that access. And a lot of that is what they're paying for. And it's they like your music, they want to support you, but you're giving them a lot of really cool stuff too, up to your unicorn level. You've got the $1,000 a month, and it's just amazing. So
we're still waiting for the unicorn. We don't have any yet, but we're waiting.
Well, I love it. So can you tell us maybe just really quickly, if an artist was thinking about wanting to create some sort of a membership platform? You mentioned you started on Patreon. You're now on ClickFunnels. Do you want to tell us about some of the tools and maybe what you would recommend somebody start out on if they wanted to pursue that route?
Yeah, I mean, the ClickFunnels thing is it literally is just that, a funnel. If you're not familiar with ClickFunnels, it's basically a way to build a funnel to get people's information so that then you can market to them. And I used ClickFunnels to launch a couple of records where we did 11-day funnels and a 5-day funnel. And it was basically, you sign up, and then for 11 days, you get a song download and a devotion based on that song every single day. And then on the 12th day, you get an offer that says, "Hey, did you like all of this? Why don't you buy the record? I'll send you a signed CD and a few other things that came in the package." And that kind of built my email list through MailChimp. And then that led to being able to market to those people for the monthly memberships. And we built that monthly membership site that you're looking at right there on WordPress through a platform called MemberMouse. And that one has been really, really great. So the ClickFunnels thing for me totally worked. As far as developing and finding new fans, it was really, really cool. And I still use it today. Like, I actually used it when we launched the Jackie Velasquez ticket promo. Like, we had people running through a ClickFunnels funnel to sell tickets to a show. So it was kind of neat.
Really?
Yeah.
How are you getting people to go to the front end of the funnel? Is it through paid Facebook traffic or
Yep.
other?
I rely heavily on Facebook. I mean, my target demographic is like 40 to 60-year-old soccer moms. So we just run ads to them based on demographic and musical interests and all that kind of stuff. And then, the learn more or the sign up here button, and that takes them right to the funnel. They get in, they get a couple of different things, and then at the end of it, buy a ticket. Get a free poster or something like that. So it's been fairly effective. No, I wouldn't say it's hugely effective, but it's certainly accounted for 50% of the sales that I'm working through.
Well, that's a big number. And so for somebody who was starting out thinking about doing a version of this, would you suggest them, after having kind of gone through and tried a couple of these things, do you have to be a web developer or a super tech genius to be able to do something like this?
No, so I'm not a developer. I have a guy that works for me because I just don't have the time nor the patience to get through that. But the beauty of ClickFunnels is I learned that system myself. Really, really easy. And it's really pretty powerful. You can really build some awesome looking pages in ClickFunnels. And then click to buy is super easy, and payment setups is really easy. One click buy, all that kind of stuff is great in ClickFunnels. So you don't have to be like super techie to get it. Just go on there, I literally spent 48 hours and took a whole weekend and just dove headfirst into it. And by Monday, I had a nice funnel put together.
That's awesome. Well, it's a good thing for musicians who are maybe thinking, well, do I have to become a web developer to do this stuff? And obviously it sounds like the answer is no. So,
I mean, look, you got to put the time in, and man, it's a bear. Like the music, of course I want to just sit down here and write music and write songs and all that stuff. But man, it's 80% marketing and 20% music right now.
Yeah. Well, that's, and I talk a little bit about, like, I know when a lot of people get into music, they don't get into it because they want to be marketers. They get into it for the music, but like, how do you find the balance? Like, is it just certain seasons where you're like writing and recording and doing that side of things, and then are there certain seasons where you're solely focused on marketing, or is it kind of like all of it all the time?
It's all of it all the time. I use a program called Asana, and that basically maps out my day for me. And I communicate with folks through Slack, and it's, timed out. Like the first 2 hours every day, we're going to sit down, we're going to write. And then, 11 a.m., we start marketing, and we just roll until 5 or 6 o'clock at night. And that's what we're working on doing. I'm making my own graphics now through Photoshop. I'm learning Adobe Premiere Pro to help with my video editing and all that stuff. So it's, it is everything happening all at once, all the time. And now I went ahead and did this thing called the Song of the Month Club for my members. And now I'm forcing myself to write a new song every month that I then deliver to them on a cassette tape with a handwritten lyric and a handwritten devotion. So I'm forcing myself to write, which is going to be kind of cool.
Hey, well, you've set yourself up for a system where you have to be creative and you have to market at the same time, which is probably an idea that many out there should consider. So we'll provide some. You've mentioned a lot of really great tools. We'll definitely provide some links to those in the descriptions. I know you mentioned you're working with ClickFunnels, you work with Asana, you're working on Slack. Printful, you said, is what you're using to do your merch.
Yep. Well, I'm using it to do like merch on demand. Like if you look at my store there's a lot of stuff that gets pushed through Printful. But the problem is margins aren't great. Like where you can go off and get a t-shirt done for $7 or $8 if you do 30 or 40 of them. On Printful, it's one at a time, and it costs like $14 for a t-shirt or something like that. So you got to mark up a little bit or not make a lot in your ROI. So it's kind of a different thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but it's a great site to not have stock on hand. As an indie artist, it's awesome.
Yeah, and you don't have to front the cost of printing 30 or 40 of them, and then you got to warehouse them, you got to ship them, you got to deal with all that stuff. So, tell us a little bit of your thoughts on going the independent artist route versus going the label route. You've obviously worked on the side of the label, so you know what a label can offer. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I started this Christian music career 15 years ago, and I thought the first thing that I wanted was indeed the label, the publisher, and all of that. And I found that as I started writing and recording my own stuff, I had a producer buddy of mine that was co-writing with me, and we were pretty much doing whatever we wanted, whenever we wanted, however we wanted, and I could just basically do it all myself. And I really started to get addicted to that. And that's what led to the drive that I was just going to do this by myself. And sure, I'm not going to say it's awesome every day. It gets super frustrating, when I don't get on a certain Spotify playlist or something like that. It's frustrating because the label artists do and we don't. But the quality of stuff that we're pushing out there right now is right on par with what the labels are pushing out. And I'm an indie artist, and I'm happy to control it on myself and do all the marketing and all of that stuff. And maybe it's because I'm a control freak. I don't know. But I really enjoy the process. And I've just now started over the last year or two I've got one guy that helps me with marketing now, but everything up until then I was doing myself, and I had a full-time job rolling as well. So it was a ton of work, but I loved it.
So in hindsight, I mean, if an artist is considering, I really want this label thing, or I'm kind of choosing to go the independent route, like would you say, is there a point when it makes sense to pull the trigger and go the label route, or how would you approach that?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. I think nowadays, and I love the labels. Like, they're awesome. What they do is amazing. They're brilliant at marketing. They're brilliant at digital stuff. Like, it's just, everything they do is great. But I think it all depends on the artist, right? Like, if you've got somebody that is their dream and that's what they're going to go for, then they'll find a way to get there. But that wasn't my path. And I really find that now when I go out and play a live show, I hang at the merch table. And I hang at the merch table until the last person leaves, and I pray with people. It's ministry. Like, it really is ministry for me. And that's what I really, really love about being able to do it the way that I'm doing it right now. It's just the relationships, developing relationships with people, and literally building community, which has been amazing.
That's awesome. So a lot of what you do is in the worship music realm of things. Am I accurate to say that would be the case?
Yeah. I guess I'm a full-on worship artist, and I write my own stuff too. So we have a nice balance between the two stuff.
So talk to me a little bit about the process of writing original worship music. I know so many of the songs that are done in churches, it seems like kind of come out of a spontaneous live set moment. Do you kind of have to put yourself into a mentality when you're doing that? Do you have like set collaborators that you're doing a lot of this with, or is it kind of just like, what's your process like?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. The worship side of things that I do is probably 90% covers. And I did a record about 4 years ago called The Walk, and it was my first ever worship album. And it was fun to write. I wrote it 100% by myself. And my producer came in and he wanted to change all this stuff. And I was like, nah, man, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're doing it. Like, we're keeping the lyrics here because they're very scripturally based. And then over the last couple of years, like, I got a record called Faith and Gasoline, and that was with a guy named Scotty Wilbanks, who co-wrote a bunch of stuff with me and produced it. And that was not a worship record at all. It was kind of a singer-songwriter record with a lot of good leaned, pop and some 80s stuff on there. So it was a lot of fun to make. So again, like, not having a label, I don't have to be forced to go down these certain roads. I'm pretty much free to do whatever I want to do. But maybe because I'm in New York, I don't really collaborate that often with a lot of folks. But now with Zoom calls, everything's changed.
Yeah, it's certainly made geography not really a restriction anymore. Well, I was going to ask you actually about that. You hit on it a little bit. I saw your latest record was called Faith and Gasoline. Tell us about that. What's that all about? So
this record is 2 years old, but I'm still pushing it really, really hard. I just wrote a book called Faith and Gasoline. It's a 140-page devotional book based on the record, and we're launching that next month. And Faith and Gasoline is basically, this ministry runs on two things: the faith that we have in Jesus and the gas that we put in this big black van that I use to ride from gig to gig. So that's basically it. And I mean, the core of it is we're all on this journey together, and let's just find a way to find Jesus in all of it.
So good. Make sure we'll put links for that as well. And it looks like you're definitely tied in with, two that I can find: Holt International and There Is Hope movement. Tell us about those ministries that you work with.
So those two ministries, I started the There Is Hope movement. We work in the addiction and recovery community. I lost my nephew 3 years ago to an accidental heroin overdose, actually right here in my basement. And it's been tough for us to kind of come to grips with that as a family. But I remember when that happened, I sat with my sister on our deck in the back. And I was like, hey, there's one of two things that could happen now. One, we could get lost in the grief, or two, we could somehow use this for God's glory. And we opted for the latter, and we started this thing called the There Is Hope movement. And we basically act as a conduit between folks that need help from substance abuse addictions and folks that can help. And we've partnered with Teen Challenge and Celebrate Recovery. We go there and lead worship for a bunch of those guys. And we're always looking to find a way to lead worship for recovery groups, because it's amazing to go and play at these services. So it's just awesome. So we've got these bracelets that say There Is Hope on them, and a portion of the proceeds goes straight back to Teen Challenge. And we just love working with those guys. And then Holt, that's the other half of the ministry. We just love to see kids get sponsored and have their lives saved through, $34 a month, right? It's incredible to be able to change a kid's life for $34 a month. So just recently I was out on tour with David Phelps, and I was just as a Holt International spokesperson, which was pretty amazing and brand new for me. Like, I wasn't playing any music. It was just me going out and talking about Holt. So it was a pretty awesome experience.
I love it. Well, you're using your platform for doing good and saving lives, which is amazing. So it's great. So what advice would you give to artists who are wanting to lead worship at the scale that you're doing it? Like, there's a lot of people out there who, in Christian music, it's very rapidly evolved from, singer-songwriter, pop Christian music, and now it's everything is sort of heading towards worship artists. What advice would you give to artists who are wanting to pursue that route?
Well, I've certainly embraced it. I know there's a lot of guys that are just pushing away from it, and it's changing and morphing, I think, in a good way. I think we're heading back towards something that's a little more genuine and real and organic, as opposed to all produced up, which I'm really excited about. But it's all persistence, man. It's just working at your craft and just putting the time in to really make it as good as it can possibly be. Like, the reason I get booked so often is because the quality of the product that I bring is there. And that's only because I've been getting up in front of stages, getting on stages for the last 15 years, 20 years. So it's all persistence and building your craft and making it work through live shows, for live shows. Yeah.
So good. Well, I could ask so many questions. I know you're a busy man. You're doing, it sounds like, a whole lot of things right now that are really exciting and getting ready to launch your book. So don't want to keep you for too long, but I do want to have a little bit of a discussion about Dave Pettigrew as music supervisor. So if you're cool with that, we are going to do that as a part of our deep dive. If people are interested in learning about, what music supervisors do, what kind of music do they look for, how do you attract the right music, some advice for songwriters wanting to pursue sync, head over to madeitmusic.com, and you can access our deep dives, including this one right there. Before we do that, are you ready to dive into our lightning round?
I guess so. I don't know if I have a choice.
All right. What's something on your bucket list that you haven't gotten to do yet?
Well, because of this Faith and Gasoline thing, I'm looking to do a tour straight down Route 66. Because a lot of the book, as you'll see, is there's shots from Route 66 and the lore of Route 66. So I'm looking to start at the beginning and tour right down that whole thing to the end and really hit every stop along the way. So it should be cool.
Love it. What's an artist that you're personally enjoying right now?
That's interesting. I really love For King Country these days. I still love what they're doing. I love the songwriting process that they have. We were lucky enough to open up for them a couple of times, and I was pulled into the prayer before they went on stage, and I was just like, it's legit. So I've really been digging what they're doing these days.
Yeah. So good. What's your go-to series or movie when you want to watch something but can't find anything to watch?
It's Seinfeld all the time.
I'll second that.
Yeah.
What's your favorite or most used app on your phone?
Probably Asana. Yeah, that really just guides my day and lets me know exactly what's happening at what time, when. Yeah.
Very cool. And lastly, if you were on a desert island, what's one non-survival related item you'd want to bring?
Probably a copy of U2's The Joshua Tree.
It's a good choice there.
Yeah, for sure.
That'll get you through. Awesome. Well, this has been a blast. And like I said, we are going to be doing our deep dive on you as a music supervisor and what all goes into that. So people can check that out at madeitmusic.com. Dave, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Yeah, man. Absolute pleasure to be here. Appreciate what you're doing for all of us indies.
What's up? Thank you for watching the Made It in Music podcast season 3. If you want to check out any of the other episodes from season 3, click up here. And we talk in the show about these really cool deep dives with all this extra bonus content. And if you want access to all of those, click here.